We're all part of your community. Every day we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good,
others not so much.
But that's life. It's when you experience a moment of uncertainty. Something or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right.
These are the moments to take a pause.
Because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not.
It's not about paranoia
or being afraid.
It's about standing up and protecting our communities.
One detail at a time.
Because a lot of little details can become a pattern.
We
trust our instincts.
Just like you should.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
The SGM Terrorist Patrol 2nd Edition Training Videos content is public information derived from Homeland Security releases and experts in law enforcement. It is to be used as information and education purposes only. Security Guard Management does not make any representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy. Security Guard Management does not take any responsibility for your conduct during any actual incidents that you may experience. This training video is about how to recognize and respond to terrorist and domestic terrorism. The definition of terrorism is the use of violence for political ends, which includes the use of violence, thereby putting the public or a government in fear. There are several types of terrorist attacks. The main and most dangerous attack is when a suicide bomber is involved. What distinguishes a suicide terrorist from other terrorist attackers is that the suicide attacker will kill themselves in order to succeed while wearing a suicide vest or ramming a truck of explosives into a building. Never think for one moment that it'll never happen where you are. That was what a lot of people thought before their terrorist attacks. With that said, let's go through the process terms used to make bombs. As you probably already know, the basic duties of a security officer is to observe, report, and protect. That's even more important when it comes to terrorism. I'm sure that you've been told many times, always be prepared. Well, being prepared is even more important when it comes to terrorist attacks. In this day and age, everyone has a cell phone, so be sure that yours is charged. Speaking of cell phones, never talk on your cell phone when you suspect that there is a bomb or suspicious package in your vicinity. It could possibly activate them. That does not prohibit you from using your cell phone to take photographs, videos, or even record conversations for future evidence. Photographing and recording do not emit a radio transmission. Only telephone calls are capable of transmitting a signal. It may be that your cell phone is not on the same frequency as the detonator of the bomb, but it's not worth taking that chance. Before we get into the defense and offense techniques to combat terrorism, I want to show you some actual incidents that have occurred in the United States. Everyone knows about the World Trade Center attack. What I'm about to show you are just a few of the terrorist attacks since 2008. I want you to see them because you need to take terrorism seriously. Binghamton, New York. Sampson, Alabama. Fort Hood, Texas. Aurora, California. Newton, Connecticut. Washington, D.C. Navy Yard. Las Vegas, Nevada. Charleston, South Carolina. Orlando, Florida. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Las Vegas, Nevada. Sutherland Springs, Texas. Parkland, Florida. And that's just a few of the attacks that occurred since 2008. In the same time frame, there were actually 91 attacks, most of which were fatalities. The final total, 367 people were killed, 1,310 people were wounded. The number of attacks that were prevented is probably well into the hundreds. The number of prevented attacks is probably triple that. And almost every one of them were from a tip from a citizen, security personnel, and security officers just like you. They were prevented because they saw something and they said something, which is what this training video is all about. As a security officer, you have a better chance of seeing something than the average person. That's probably because most people are working, shopping, and involved in other things not related to security. Whereas a security officer, you are required to be observant and looking for things on your post that need to be reported. As a result, it increases your chances of seeing something related to terrorism. Of course, you have to know what to look for. Okay, let's begin. Homeland Security describes the 5 types of terrorism levels as state, terrorist attacks against a state or government by another country. Dissent terrorism. Dissent terrorism are terrorist groups who rebel against the government. Terrorists on the left and right. These are terrorist groups rooted in political ideology. Religious terrorism. Religious terrorism are terrorist groups which are extremely and religiously motivated. Criminal terrorism. Criminal terrorism are terrorist attacks done to commit and profit to fund violent terrorist attacks. All criminal terrorism is domestic terrorists and the active shooters. They both want to kill people. You need to have a plan and be prepared for any disaster, especially terrorism. The last time you came on duty, you probably didn't know how to react to a suspicious terrorist scenario or an active shooter. Hopefully you will at the end of this training session. Those who recognize danger when it occurs and take action tend to survive. Remember that. It's obvious I couldn't possibly cover all situations regarding terrorism attacks. What we hope to do is give you a better understanding as a security officer in what to look for, what to expect, and how to react. As a security officer, you're on the front line when it comes to discovering a terrorist situation. You're also the person that everyone will be looking to for guidance. Here are some profiles of terrorist typical behavior to help you identify suspicious activity so that law enforcement can take over. Just like other criminals, terrorists need to plan and prepare. They just don't say, okay, I'm going to blow this building up. It takes time to work out the details, especially an attack using a bomb. They need a plan. So let's break that down. Where and who is the target? When will they set off the bomb? Where will they place the bomb? Who's going to place the bomb? How will they manufacture the bomb? Where will they manufacture the bomb? Where will they store the materials and then transport to the target? They need ways to fund it. The planning, buying, and funding are all things that you as a security officer are unlikely to come across or even prevent for that matter. That is not the case with making and storing a bomb. That's because making and storing a bomb is something that can be observed by someone who's alert and knows what to look for. Terrorists obviously need a place to store and put together the bomb components. If your post has garages, sheds, or basements, those are the kinds of places that terrorists have been known to use. Terrorists really like to store and manufacture at one location. They also like to live there so that they have an easy in and out access that will not attract too much attention when bringing in materials. Apartment buildings and gated communities are locations that typically require a security officer's service. If you work in an apartment complex or a gated community, pay particular attention to anyone new moving in with little or no furniture. They don't bring furniture because they don't plan on staying there after the attack. If you observe a lot of suspicious looking people going in and out at strange hours, you see them bringing in and out large boxes and bags. All of a sudden, one day they have a van or a box truck. If you see or suspect anything like that, notify your supervisor. When building larger bombs like fertilizer and chemicals, which require a lot of storage space, they may rent a store on the strip mall that has a rear garage door access. That's because moving boxes in and out of that type of facility is a common event, and it won't attract any attention. If you're a mobile patrol officer assigned to periodically patrol and check strip malls, Be alert. Recognizing suspicious behavior is not easy. Then again, sometimes it's pretty obvious if you know what you're looking for. Most of the time, it's knowing what to look for and your instincts. Hopefully this training session will enhance your knowledge with enough information to support your instincts. If you see something, say something. That phrase is the foundation for combating terrorism and can't be said enough. Terrorists will attack where there is the least resistance, such as apartment buildings and commercial buildings with people in and around them. They're referred to as soft targets. Why are they called soft targets? The main reason is that they're not a government facility with high-tech video surveillance and an armed security presence. As a result, most of the terrorist attacks in the United States have been against soft targets, like the ones that I showed you at the beginning of this training session. Profiling individuals is wrong. However, profiling behaviors, now that's a totally different story. The following are examples of suspicious personal behavior. How are they acting? Their mannerisms, the tone of their voice, the nervousness in their voice. They can't maintain eye contact. The clothing that the subject is wearing does not make sense. For example, on a very hot day, a subject comes onto your post wearing an overcoat. It doesn't have to be that drastic. Another example, suppose you're working on a construction site where everyone's required to wear hard hats and reflective vests. While on patrol, you observe a subject looking around, not wearing construction safety clothes. By itself, it's somewhat suspicious and could probably be explained when you talk to them. But if you also see one or more of the behavioral points I just went over, the situation becomes much more suspicious and should be checked out. But before you check them out, notify your supervisor. Another behavioral example. You see a stranger walking around your post studying the security camera systems. Or worse, they're taking photos of the security cameras. Plus, he's a stranger, not an employee or a resident. I would say that's enough probable cause to question him based on behavior. Before you go over to him, contact your supervisor and give the facts and ask for assistance. When you go over to him, don't just blurt out, "Let me see some identification." You need to approach the situation cautiously in a progressive manner. When you walk up to him, you need to say, "Hello, I'm Security Officer Jones, assigned to protect this property. I see you're taking pictures of our security camera. Can you tell me why you're doing that?" He says that he was hired by the company to take pictures. Ask him for identification. If he's legitimate, he probably won't even hesitate to identify himself. If he doesn't have or show you identification, and based on all the other facts, like taking videos of cameras, you shouldn't be satisfied with the explanation he's given. Tell him that he's on private property and he needs to leave. If he doesn't leave, contact the police. Make a mental note of his description, and if possible, take a picture of him with your cell phone. And as long as he's on your post property, you can politely tell him to leave the property. If he refuses, notify the police. As long as they're not in public space, he's trespassing, which gives you the authority to ask him to leave the property. What if they are in public space across the street from your post taking pictures? Well, you can use your cell phone to take photographs or video. Don't try to hide the fact that you're taking pictures. Make it obvious that you have them under surveillance and that somebody's watching. Make an incident report, which would include the time and date that you observed that, what you saw to make you suspicious, a description of what happened before, during, and after, the location, not only of the post, but the exact location the subject was at, and of course, a physical description of the subject. If there are any vehicles involved, make a list of the model, color, and tag number if possible. Depending upon the situation, you may have to put more information in the report. Most people tend to underreact. They either assume that there's a reasonable explanation or they just don't want to get involved. That's not you. You're a security officer and your job is to get involved. Law enforcement experts agree that underreacting to a suspicious situation is a bigger problem than overreacting. Obviously, overreacting is a concern as well. That's why you have to be sure of yourself when you react. Again, remember that you're a security officer and you have certain responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is to get involved when there's something wrong. If later the police determine that the information you provided isn't sufficient to investigate, don't be deterred. It is better to notify them than not notify and have something terrible happen. Stick with the phrase, see something, say something, rule. When people are unsure what's happening, all too often they make the mistake of sticking around or getting closer trying to see what's going on. That's not only a bad idea, it's dangerous. If you suspect a terrorist attack, such as a bomb is about to explode, get yourself and everyone else away from the area immediately. If there's no doubt something dangerous is happening or about to happen, like someone sets down an abandoned tote bag or a backpack and they put it on the ground and then walk away, I think you'll agree that's highly suspicious. Take the side of caution and move yourself and others at least 500 feet away. Notify the police and your supervisor right away. As I said earlier, it's better to overreact than to underreact. Here are a few other things to look for. A suspicious vehicle that is parked in an unusual location where there's a crowd of people. Abandoned and suspicious boxes. Abandoned backpacks. Abandoned gym bags, etc. While on post, you feel or hear an explosion outside. Remain inside. Lock down the elevators and the outside doors. Have everyone go to the stairwell so that the cement and cinder block walls can protect them in case there's another explosion. There are all types of bombs. Here are just a few of them and their basic components. C4. C4 is a plastic explosive commonly used for making bombs, probably because C4 takes up less space and is more stable than most other components. For its size, it is more powerful than most other bombs. A dynamite bomb usually consists of several sticks of dynamite attached as a fuse to be lit, which is the primary detonator. Fertilizer bombs. This bomb uses fertilizer mixed with chemicals and uses a detonator to make it explode. They require an extremely large amount of fertilizer to be effective. As you know, fertilizer usually comes in bags and sacks. To get the same result, say a C4 bomb would have, it would require a tremendous amount of fertilizer. Therefore, they will need a place to store it and then a vehicle such as a box truck to transport it to the target. As a result, this type of bomb is rare. Terrorists are able to put them in locations where there are many people congregating. Unlike fertilizer bombs, cars with other types of explosives can act as their own delivery system without attracting suspicion. Observing vehicles that look overloaded does not necessarily mean that you have a terrorist situation, but it should arouse your suspicions. A pressure cooker bomb is an explosive device using a standard off-the-shelf pressure cooker and inserting explosives filled with nails or other sharp metal objects. A pipe bomb is a smaller in-house manufactured device that uses a section of pipe with tightly sealed ends. The detonator is usually a dynamite-style wick. Molotov cocktails are not only used by terrorists, they are also used by protesters and rioters. The Molotov cocktail bombs are simply large bottles that contain flammable liquids with a rag stuffed to the neck to be lit as a detonator. There are many more, some more sophisticated, but the purpose is that they're all designed to kill or wound people. All bombs require explosives and a detonator. Some use mixtures of chemicals. The most common is dynamite and C4. If they're making bombs using dynamite or C4, you're probably not going to see any openly signs of those materials. What you may see are empty boxes identifying the contents discarded in the trash. As I said, fertilizer bombs, they require a tremendous amount of fertilizer that they obtain by the bags. Leaving it in the bags would not be effective. Those bags need to be disposed of, which can be observed in dumpsters and other trash receptacles. Because most explosives and chemicals have toxic dust, that if inhaled or enter in the body through the skin or the eye or tear ducts, they could be life-threatening. They wear goggles and face masks during the manufacturing stage. Look for empty boxes that were used to pack goggles and face masks being thrown away. Most terrorist bombings are not a spur-of-the-moment event. They have to be planned. Part of the planning is conducting multiple surveillances of the target. Look for strangers hanging around your post taking pictures of security cameras, exits, and entrances. As I mentioned before, it could be a terrorist targeting your post. If they are on your post's property, there's nothing wrong with going over to them and asking them what they're doing and also asking for an ID. They don't have to answer you, but it puts them on notice that they're being watched. Remember what I said about profiling. You're not profiling the person, you're profiling their behavior. They will probably lie to you, or they may even talk to you and just walk away. You'll have to let them do that because there's no probable cause. But that's okay. You got a closer look at them, and now you can provide a more detailed description, such as their height, weight, skin color, hair color, complexion, scars, marks, tattoos, clothing, etc. Confronting him, you might detect a foreign accent. If you're really lucky, you might even get some intelligence that would be useful to the police. The bottom line is that they now know that they're being watched. Make an incident report and report it to your supervisor right away. Another important part of their planning that they need to know is timing. How long it takes for the first responders to arrive at the target. To accomplish that, they will call in a false bomb threat or a false fire alarm and see how long it takes the first responders to arrive so that they know how much time they'll need to get away. The darker side of that is that they may be planning a secondary bomb to kill the first responders. Most people are curious, and when they see police cars or fire department trucks stopping in a building near them, they'll stick around to see what's going on. Terrorists don't stick around once the first responders arrive. They've reached their goal. Now they need to know how long it took for them from the time that they made the call and the time that the first responders arrived. I'm sure you would agree that it's highly unusual for someone to walk away right at that time. So if you get a bomb threat or a fire call and it turns out to be false, look and observe to see if you see anyone driving or walking away. If you do, get a description and the tag number if possible. Use your cell phone to take videos or pictures. Okay, now, let's talk about letters and package bombs. These kinds of bombs occur more often than those larger bombs that I spoke about earlier. Terrorists use the U.S. Mail, UPS, and FedEx to deliver letter bombs. Even though each of them look for suspicious letters and packages and conduct cursory searches, they could have missed one. If you come across a letter or box that is suspicious, do not attempt to open it to be sure, because they're designed to detonate when the outer wrapper is cut, torn, or opened. In fact, don't even touch it. If your duties are to check people in and out at an industrial complex or an apartment building, and include receiving letters and packages for the personnel that work or live there, you need to be on the lookout for suspicious envelopes and packages. The following are some examples of what I'm talking about. Terrorists will put excessive postage on a package so it's not inspected for lack of postage. Excessive sealing material. To prevent anyone but the recipient from opening the package, they will use excessive packaging sealers such as twine, duct tape, masking tape, etc. Sometimes they'll even put duct tape around the entire package. This is usually done to stop the chemicals inside from leaking out. Look for lopsided boxes with faulty weight distribution. This usually occurs when the heavy weight of batteries are on the one side of the box and the explosives are on the other side of the box. Look for oil stains or discoloration on the envelope, box, and wrapping material. That's an indication that the liquid from the bomb is leaking through. If the package has an unusual odor, like the smell of almonds, sugar, or honey, it may indicate that it's a chemical bomb. In this day and age with cell phones, it's unlikely that they would use an old wind-up clock to set up a bomb, but you never know. Just in case, if you hear a ticking sound inside of a box, do not shake it. Leave it where it is and call the police. In the industrial complex or office building, a letter or parcel is addressed to the recipient by name only, will the reverse a title only. In the industrial complex or office building, if a letter or parcel is addressed to the recipient by name only, and call the recipient or the department to send someone to verify if it's authentic. A letter or package with the words private and confidential, or it says to be opened by addressee only. A package marked confidential or to be opened by addressee only is not that unusual, but it should be considered suspect, especially if there are any of the suspicious indications. If there's no return address, that's also not that unusual, but coupled with the other factors, it could be. Spelling errors. The address, name, or recipient's name, it's not uncommon that they're misspelled. I've done it myself many times. But most foreign terrorists do not speak fluent English, and they often misspell English words. Misspelling should only be considered if it's part of other suspicious indications that are present. The letter or package may be written in a strange or foreign-looking handwriting. Most terrorists do not have the penmanship that the average American does. Of course, if the label is typed, that's a different story altogether. As I said, if you suspect something is wrong with the package or letter, contact the recipient. Describe the package or letter, ascertain if they're expecting any package or letter from the sender. Sometimes foreign terrorists or even domestic terrorists will put anthrax in a letter or a package instead of a bomb. Anthrax is an infectious disease powder. Infection can be gotten by breathing the dust, swallowing, or direct contact with broken skin. The symptoms may take months to detect. The symptoms are flu-like feeling, mild chest discomfort, shortness of breath, nausea, vomiting, headache, blisters or lesions on the skin. If you exhibit any of these symptoms after being exposed to anthrax, go to the hospital immediately. If you observe an envelope that you suspect may contain anthrax or ricin, do not touch it, wipe it away, don't douse it with water. In fact, don't even handle it. Call the police immediately. Keep everyone away. If you handle the envelope or box even for a second, immediately wash your hands. If you don't touch it, but you were exposed, as soon as possible, remove all of your clothing and put them in a plastic bag and seal it. Keep the bag available for the police or the appropriate agency. Shower with soap and water. Do not use bleach or other disinfectants on your skin because it could irritate the skin, which could allow the anthrax powder to enter your body. In your incident report, list the names and contact numbers of all persons who were in the area before and after it was discovered.
I want you to consider everything I've been talking about. Suppose one day you're working at a shopping center and you notice a large box truck coming into the center at a high rate of speed. The truck drives up to the main entrance and stops. Suddenly, a car pulls up and stops alongside the truck. The truck driver gets out and quickly gets into the car. The car then rapidly drives away. Think common sense. You just saw something. Do you need to say something? You ask yourself, is this a terrorist attack? You jump out of your patrol car and start yelling for everyone to get away from the truck. You start shouting out, bomb, bomb, bomb. You try to get everyone as far away from the truck as you can, and you call 911 immediately. Suppose nothing happens. When the police arrive, you tell them the facts. No one can blame you. You saw something, you said something, and you did something. Think about it. What if it wasn't a false alarm and you were right? Always remember, if you see something, say something. That goes for on or off duty. Not to mention, there are many lives that you may have possibly saved.
If it's ever necessary, your training and knowledge gives you an advantage. I hope you will take this training session seriously. This concludes the Terrorist Patrol 2nd edition.